thanks. How you doing, man?
I'm going really, really well. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. It's an absolute honor chatting to you.
Oh no, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad you guys cared enough to do an interview.
Not a problem. Now, mate, Wasteland, it is such an amazing track. This is Seether at their absolute best. Tell us a little bit about how this track came about. What inspired you guys to write it? Because it is such an amazing track.
Well, musically, I was just all the songs that I wrote for this album. I just sit in this room, and I would sit up here like 8 hours a day, just writing stuff until I eventually figured, okay, cool, I'm burning out on the music side of it, and I can start doing melodies and vocals and things. And it took about 9 months to write all the stuff that made it onto the album, and the subsequent EP that's just coming out here in the States here in a month, and then I believe there's another EP coming out early next year. So we got a lot of stuff down the pipe that was written for this album. But lyrically, I don't normally much like to expand upon it too much, but I think it's getting to a point for me now where, especially with this song, and it's not very direct, so possibly some of the meanings behind the lyrics can still be retained by whoever listens to them, and how they hear the words. But a lot of the stuff started centering around just general disdain from my end, and actually pure hatred of social media and its effect on society in general, and how people, how they interact with each other, how kids are seeing themselves on any kind of social spectrum, right? They see themselves as they need to be, they just need to look a certain way, behave a certain way, say these kinds of things, chase likes and thumbs ups, and then you're worth something in the world. Then you really you have a meaningful existence. And I have a 19-year-old who I've seen go through this, and she grew up with social media. She was she had a cell phone attached to her hand at all times, or it was always within reach. And so growing up, one of the earliest kids, one of this initial generation of children that has been somewhat raised to a degree by social media. There's a lot of there's a lot of self-esteem issues that I see. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of just despair almost in some things that I see and hear from her, and it makes me incredibly sad that look. She grew up in South Africa while I was here in the States, so. I'm obviously guilt-ridden about that too, but the fact is I've seen the profound effect it had on her, and I just didn't like it. And I think that what's happening is we've been handed this really addictive drug, and it's completely legal, and nobody says anything about it. But I think it's more dangerous than anything else that's out there. And so really the song in a general sense is some sort of reflection about that, and the current state we find ourselves in as far as the youth of today is really skilled at interacting via text or Instagram or Twitter, using emojis and sort of abbreviated language and things like that. But when it comes to socially and actually interacting, it seems like that side of it is getting really awkward and diminishing because you're a much different personality behind a keyboard or whether that be a phone or a computer. And the person you might present as is very different to the person that you are in real life sometimes. So there's that other aspect of how a lot of what we see and hear on social media is completely fabricated, and therefore kids are trying to live this. And it's not just kids, but for the most part, I would assume it is that it's they have to live this double existence to kind of find their meaning and purpose in life, where it shouldn't be on a phone screen. It should be with someone you can actually physically reach out and touch. Those are the people that really should matter,
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that people are starting to wake up to that? We had a really tragic case here in Australia a couple of years back where a young girl who her parents thought was a happy girl killed herself as a result of the things that people were saying about her on social media. And that has led to more of an awareness here in Australia, including a national day on the anniversary of her death, where they talk about that all over the media and make parents aware of it. Do you think we're becoming more and more aware of the dangers of social media now?
I think so. I think people still kind of try to brush it away. It takes devastating things like that to happen. Like up here in the States, we had that girl that encouraged her boyfriend to kill himself, and he ended up doing it. And I believe in that case, she might have got some sort of punishment for it, because it was such a publicized case. But a lot of the times, that's the other problem. There's a lack of accountability. So you can say heinous things to somebody and they never know who it's coming from directly. But all of these things are so hurtful, and it's very often it's the kids that don't outwardly present themselves as unhappy. They're really, really good at masking that depression. They're really good at making sure that nobody else knows that they're struggling. And ultimately, I mean, there was a kid here in Tennessee that was just a couple of years ago. He was outed as gay by some other kids from his school when he was 15, 16, and it's 2020 or 2019. So it's not like it's in the 60s or whatever, but he ended up killing himself as well. And it's such a desperate thing to feel like that's the only recourse that you have based on what is being said to you or about you in this really vapid world, this really vapid ecosystem that doesn't really mean anything. And that's the thing is, I would love to see more of a spotlight on it. We've dealt a lot with suicide since my brother died in 2007, and we've had the festival, and we sort of rekindling all of that now after all of the COVID stuff and what have you. But that's something we're going to start working on a little bit more as well, is the online bullying side of it, and the anonymity and the lack of accountability, because there needs to be some sort of system in place where if you can directly trace somebody or a group of people attacking somebody else who's vulnerable, and this has happened with video game designers. I mean, if you just, the more you think about it, it's really affected many, many, many lives across many, many different careers and spectrums. And it's not just, you can't just hone into one and say, it's just teenagers. It's like literally, it feels like there's this class of people who thinks that they are superior somehow, and that their viewpoints exceed your own, and yours are wrong, and theirs are right. And if you disagree, then they want to just cut you down and destroy you. And that's just sad. And that's I guess some sort of inherent pack mentality that weak people pack up to attack stronger people. I think because that way they feel stronger themselves and a little bit more invulnerable. But I'm glad that there's more of a light being shone on it. But dude, you know what? With governments, I've just now come to this side. I feel like there's a whole bunch of talk about stuff, but until I actually see real, and people in general, until you actually see real momentum on something and real passion and drive behind a cause, it's nice to say, hey, I care about it, and then carry on living your day, right, and your life. But it's something else to put yourself on the front lines and say, hey, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to go out and do some outreach. I'm going to do some fundraising. I'm going to do some charity work, whatever. And I hope that there's more of that where people actually mobilize and do something and do some real social outreach, because it's just going to get worse, man. Everyone's so angry right now.
Definitely, yeah. And we've actually had a bit of a win with that here in Australia in the last couple of weeks, where AFL football teams are ripping up memberships of people that they catch online making racist comments about their players and stuff like that. So they're actually out there putting their money where their mouth is and ripping up memberships, which I think is a great thing.
And I think that's the correct response. I think if someone's going to say horrible things, look, I don't say horrible things. I don't think it's a nice thing to do. But if people have the right to be who they are, and some people just don't fit quite as well into an ordered society as others do, in my point of view. But if somebody does come forward and they say something that you find reprehensible, I feel like that's the response, and I applaud the teams for doing that, because why would they not? You can't, in good conscience, have a team go out and play and know that there are people in the stands that hate those people, some of the players, for the colors of their skin. It's such a stupid way to see the world. Yeah. So I'm glad that they're doing something about it, man, because it's going to take that. It's going to just take, it's just about a whole lot less talking and a whole lot more doing, and things will actually start changing. And that's really how I see it anyway, in my opinion.
Definitely. Well, Shaun, changing the subject just a little bit, the tracks on this EP, they once again showcase your brilliant songwriting, the amazing ability that you've got to write from the heart. Tell us a little bit about your songwriting process, because I always find something deep and meaningful in every track that you write, and it's the same with this EP.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So this EP was when we sat down, or when we went into the studio to record. I had written 21 songs, and those are the ones that I'd finished completely from start to finish in their demo form. There were maybe 20 or 30 other songs that I still have to work on that may become songs in the future, or may just get sort of shoved aside and write new stuff for the next album. And the process really every time is the same. As I sit and play guitar all day, and then if something comes out, some days I come up with nothing, and I just go downstairs and play video games or read a book or go, work in the garage or do something different to get my mind off of it, because I can't force the creativity. But and then I just keep going, and it goes months and months and months and months, and then eventually I start figuring out, okay, cool, everything's sort of starting to head in this one direction, thematically, musically. There's a real kind of there's a mood being created by it all. So and then when it gets to writing lyrics, I do melodies at the same time as doing the music. Usually, if I'm very inspired. Otherwise, I'll write the music and live with it for a couple of weeks and then come back and do vocal. But when it came to lyrics this time, in the past I've always just said, okay, cool, I've got this demo which gives me the guidelines. Right before I'm going to run in the studio and do the vocal, I'm going to bang out some lyrics and then just go in there. And the idea was that it was sort of stream of consciousness, and it would allow the actual singing of the real lyrics that I've never really seen before until right now. it would give them some sort of vulnerability, which in retrospect it's a little naive, but it was always something, an approach that I found worked for me. And this time around, I took weeks, and I really sort of trimmed everything down to saying it the way I felt like I wanted to say it, more concisely. I felt for the first time, for some reason, that this album, I really wanted to look at the lyrics as much as I did the music, and it didn't really. And it started making less and less sense to me as I was writing that I wasn't concentrating on lyrics. I was just really concentrating on music first, and then just going to somewhere down the line rely on, oh yeah, that stuff you were mumbling on the demo, it kind of makes a little sense now. Okay, let's just run with that and sort of build a theme around that. So it was cool. It was definitely fun writing and actually sitting down and really scrutinizing everything, making sure that I was happy with everything. And even then, there's still a couple words here and there. I'm like, damn it, I should have just changed this one word from an and to a though. And it's that it's that microscopic. But yeah, I was pretty proud of these, man, and I'm really really happy with the way they turned out.
Yeah, I know this will probably be the last question because we are running out of time, but one of the things that really hit me with this EP was any of these tracks sounded like they could have been a single. How hard was it when you were putting the album together to work out what went on the album and what missed out?
Yeah, that was tough, man. I honestly, when the 21 songs were finished, I knew that there was for me, in my mind, there was a lot of stuff that was really strong, and I was really, really proud of it. So what I did was essentially for the album was put together the 12 or 13 that I thought were strong across the board, and then some of the ones that I thought were strongest. And then I thought it was going to be a great album in itself, but then I still have another 9 songs that I have aside, or 8 songs as it so happens. But so I've got these other songs. So then so then this EP was some of the songs that were almost considered more B-side, which is interesting, because I know that there's 1 or 2 songs on here that were some people's favorites. And then there's another EP that'll come out with the rest of those 21 songs that were recorded, and there are some of my favorites on that one. So the plan was almost to kind of do a back-to-back album kind of thing, and I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So then obviously COVID didn't help us, and the album came out, and then now it's kind of a digital era, so we just want to keep putting out this music, because I really want this music to be heard, and no matter if it comes out in 2 EPs or 1 other album, it doesn't really matter to me. So that's the route we've taken. But yeah, these are songs that I'm glad are actually getting some sort of light. And I'm especially proud of the alternative version of Wasteland on this one, because I wrote that from the ground up, and we dropped it half a step in tuning and slowed it down a bit so it would have a completely different feel to it. And I'm really happy that it's done and it's coming out finally, because it's been such an odd time in music, and it's been such a strange time in general in the business, that the fact that we can release two releases, whether it's an album, an EP, or whatever it is, within less than a space of a year in a time like this has been pretty cool.
It has been, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, congratulations on such an amazing EP. I'll let you go, but thank you so much.
All right, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.